readers, we're gonna fly, come along. With the super readers, adventure waits when you're with Super Y. Super Y and the super readers, yeah. Super Y and the super readers. Adventure waits when you're with Super Y. Yeah, Super Y.
Scholastic Audio presents 4 fantastic Wordgirl adventures. Book 1, Coupon Madness.
Word up, it's Wordgirl. Word up, it's Wordgirl. Flying at the speed of sound, vocabulary that astounds from the fine lexicon. Watch her villains, here she comes. Faced with a catastrophe, we need the living dictionary. Her superior intellect keeps the crime world in check. Go, girl!
Ha! I'm Wordgirl. Captain Huggyface and I are from the planet Lexicon. We crash-landed on Earth when I was a baby. Everyone here knows us as Becky Botsford and Bob. But secretly, I use my super strength and word power to fight evil villains. Word up!
Word up, it's Wordgirl. Word up! Here she comes!
At the end of the stories, please keep listening for a special bonus. The Power Words Game.
Wordgirl!
One afternoon, Becky and her family were doing some shopping. They were at the only grocery store in town that still allowed monkeys, so Bob could come along. Her brother TJ stared at a life-size cutout of Wordgirl.
Can you imagine if she came to life right now?
TJ said dreamily.
What do you think she'd say?
That you have crumbs on your face?
Replied Becky with a smile. TJ didn't laugh, so Becky and Bob went in search of free samples. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Granny May was doing some shopping of her own. At the bank, she handed the teller a coupon that was good for 1 free toaster and all the money in the bank. As she left with her loot, a guard stopped her, but Granny May showed him the coupon too. "Wow, that's a bargain," he said. Granny May's next stop was the used car lot. She flashed a coupon to the owner of the lot and drove off in a big truck loaded with all the cars. She didn't have to pay for any of them. Then Granny May headed to the grocery store. She walked up to the store manager.
This coupon entitles me to 2 for 1 on cans of tuna.
She said.
And the combination to your safe.
"Really?" asked the manager. "I don't remember printing that." With an evil look in her eyes, Granny May pulled out her knitting needles. Whoosh! Purple yarn shot out of the needles and wrapped around the manager until he couldn't move. Laughed Granny May.
Now then, what's the combination to the safe?
Granny May asked sweetly. Grumbled the manager. His mouth was covered in yarn. Just then, Becky turned the corner and saw Granny May.
Looks like trouble.
She thought.
Hey, is this thing on?
Hey, Sid, what do you say? What you want to learn today?
I want to know why things happen and how, and I want to know everything now. Oh, yeah! How does this thing work? Why does that stuff change? How does that do what it just did? What's up with the sky? You think I can fly? The world is spinning and I want to know why. questions and big ideas. I'm Sid, the Science Kid.
You never do know what's around the bend. A big adventure or a brand new friend. You're glorious, like Glorious George. Swing with every day is so glorious, glorious. Every day is so wondrous, wondrous. There's more to explore when you open your door and meet friends like this. You just can't miss. You never do know what's around the bend. A big adventure or a brand new friend. You're glorious, like Glorious George. Swing with every day is so glorious, glorious. Every day is so wondrous, wondrous. There's more to explore when you open your door and meet friends like this. You just can't miss. It's glorious, glorious. That's marvelous, marvelous. And that's your reward. You'll never be bored. If you ask yourself, what is this? Like Glorious, Glorious George.
Hello, it's Elmo. And Elmo's so happy to be here to sing you some of his favorite songs. Elmo hopes you like them. Hit it. Sunny day, sweeping the clouds away. On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Come and play, everything's A-okay. Friendly neighbors there, that's where we meet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? It's a magic carpet ride. Every door will open wide to happy people like you. Happy people like you. What a beautiful sunny day, sweeping the clouds away. On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? How to get to Sesame Street? How to get to Sesame Street?
Hey everyone, we're wrapping everything up. This is Jeff Good from PBS Western Reserve, and you are attending our last session for the Cyberchase Green It Up. Tonight we're going to be talking about appreciating nature as well as a big finale, and we're going to talk about how you can make a difference environmentally, and how you can really make a difference. And we're going to talk quite a bit about whether you want to go big and think about making a difference in your neighborhood, or maybe just within your school, or even just at your house. So if you're not familiar with the gang from Cyberchase, it's America's longest running math series. It's engaged millions of children in those challenges of math and STEM, and it's been on the air for more than 17 years now. So it's an animated series. It tells the story of a team of very curious kids, and they're summoned into cyberspace, right, to outwit and outsmart the villain hacker. And they use math and problem-solving skills. So Cyberchase proves that math is pretty much everywhere, and anyone can use it to make the world better. We air Cyberchase on PBS Western Reserve, your local PBS station, Sundays at 8 a.m. So check out Cyberchase. It's a long-running program, has a lot of great resources. So let's jump right into it. First of all, we're going to take a look at appreciating nature. And when you think about nature, we're gonna kind of take a more we're going to take a deeper look into nature. So what we want to take a look at is what are the benefits of nature, and these are some of the questions that you're going to think about. And then we're going to learn about how to be respectful of nature, just like you might have rules if you go over, if you're in school or if you go over to your grandma and grandpa's house. There are rules for nature, and we'll talk about that. And as always, for those that have joined us in the past, or if this is your first time, Cyberchase Green It Up starts out with a big idea, right? And the big idea is here that there are many benefits to spending time in nature. I can think of a lot of those. It's a great space for many fun activities. So for instance, in nature, you've got beautiful scenery to enjoy. You've got a place to learn new things. And it's really peaceful when you experience nature, whether it's out in the woods, whether it's out on a lake, whether it's on the beach. You really have an opportunity to clear your mind. And when you're out enjoying nature, you can show your appreciation by being respectful and taking care of the natural spaces that you visit. And we'll learn about some of those rules, and we'll learn some of the things about the Cyberchase guys. And then making sure that you're keeping nature safe and healthy for everyone else to enjoy. So it's kind of like we talk about leave things as you left them. And it's the same way with nature. We're going to learn tonight and talk about rules so that when you leave nature, in some respects, you want to leave nature better than when you walked into it. Let's take a look at what the Cyberchase folks are doing. They're going to go into the great outdoors, and they're hiking through the woods in search of a mysterious creature. So you'll learn a little bit about that. But look for ways that the characters are taking care of nature and the ways that they might be harmful to nature. Let's take a closer look.
Do you hear that?
What? Hear what?
The sounds of nature. The gurgle of a brook. The ribbit of a frog. The tweeting of a bird.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
We're not lost, are we?
Nope, we're on the red trail. We should be coming up on the mound of purple flowers.
And there they are.
Not all of them.
You're not supposed to pick wildflowers, right? Bees and other animals need them.
Somebody didn't know or didn't care.
Could it be the creature?
Maybe. Let's keep going. The geyser should be around here somewhere. The geyser!
And here are the footprints.
There are more over there.
That creature is sure making a mess.
Even if it's not staying on the path, at least it's leaving a trail so we can track it.
I wonder what the creature looks like.
No need to worry, Inez. The ditch is here. I'll play a little calming music for us.
Kids, you're scaring the birds and the animals.
Sorry.
Forget the music, okay?
You're also alerting the creature that we're here. We'll never find it that way.
Gee, I never thought of that. Huh? Look, more footprints.
Oops. Sorry, Didge.
It's only mud. See?
The footprints stop here.
They pick up again on this side.
The creature must have jumped over the branch.
Not something we can do. We gotta move it. Oh, man, this is heavy.
Aren't we supposed to leave stuff the way we find it?
Don't worry. Once we get by, we'll put it right back.
Ew, ew, and double ew.
They're just worms, Jax. Let's go.
There you go, little guys. Right back where it was. So your muddy little home will stay dark and moist.
The footprints go that way.
Any minute now, that creature and I will be face to face. Or face to foot.
The mud is still wet.
And the footprint is still big.
Mustard? The creature must have been hungry.
Matt.
Hey, Maddie, time for a buzzer beater.
Nothing but Hatch.
The footprints just stop.
Huh, no more footprints anywhere.
Maybe it just disappeared.
Or flew away.
A creature that flies.
So did you have a chance to watch the great outdoors and the gang was hiking through the woods? Still didn't know what that mysterious creature was, but what were the ways? Let's think about this for a minute. And what did you notice in the video that were some of the rules that the Cyberchase group followed while they were in the woods? Remember, they came up on that patch of flowers, right? And remember, they thought, well, the rules were that you weren't allowed to pick wildflowers, and obviously someone did. What were some other rules, or what else did you notice in the video that were some of the rules? Think about that for a minute. Then why did you think the Cyberchase folks told Digit to turn off the radio? First of all, it was really loud, and it was very harsh music. Why do you think they told him to turn that music off? Do you remember about that? What that was all about? Well, if you remember, when he turned back on the music, I just want to check something real quick here. Check. When he turned back on the music, or turned the music on, it scared all the animals away, remember? And they were all hiding in that thicket, I guess, for lack of a better term. And do you remember what they did when they ran into the log and they flipped up the log, or the log that had fallen over into the path? Do you remember what they did there and what they then did to it? Remember, they picked it up and they moved it out of the way. And remember what they found? They found a bunch of worms, right? And they realized it was, we had learned a word probably on session 1, if not session 2, the word habitat. And I think what they found was there was a home there for the worms, and they were enjoying the moist dirt that the fallen log had created by laying on the ground. So they put the log back. And then last, what are some ways when you go out into nature, and you might go out into the woods, or you might be out on the lake, or you might be walking through a park, and what are some ways that you respect nature when you go outside? Think about what those are. Let's say you might be eating a candy bar when you're walking through the woods, and you take the wrapper off and you throw it on the ground. Do you leave it on the ground, or do you maybe put it in your pocket, or maybe you throw it in a wastebasket instead of just leaving it on the ground? That's just another way to respect nature. So when you think about ways that you can go outside, and I say get outside and play with nature, there's a lot of different activities you can do if you haven't thought of them. And on our screen, you're going to see a series of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And these are just some of the activities you can do when you go outside to what I call play with nature. The number 1 item that you see on your screen is make a tiny house out of natural materials like leaves or sticks or mud. As you see in this picture, someone made a tiny house out of those sticks and put it right kind of on that log. It's kind of an interesting way to play with nature. You're using the natural elements there to create a home. I've also seen some other folks when they go into nature, they make maybe some craft type items when they're out into nature. Then think about the different ways. So another activity you can do is you may see a tree in one spot and then you'll see a tree in another spot. So think about how many different ways you can travel from one tree to another. So you might try, let's say, skipping between trees, or you might hop on one foot, or you might jump with both feet. You might cartwheel, you might roll between trees. Or you can also play, if you've not played it before, play follow the leader. So in other words, different people take turns in leading the group and doing different actions, for instance, as they move from one point to another. So think about that when you're in the woods or when you're in a park. Is you might see one tree, or you might see just a kind of a landmark in the park, and think about what it would take to play follow the leader from one spot to the other and back. Think about measuring how far you can jump. So when you're outside, you're going to measure. You're going to maybe start at a tree or a mound of sticks, and you're going to see how far you can jump. From standing with both of your feet together. Another thing you can play is what we call tree tag. I know it as freeze tag, but tree tag it's tag, and the person that is it tries to tag all the other people. And if someone gets tagged, they have to grow roots and freeze in place like a tree, and they've got to raise their arms just like a tree. You can play a game called sardines, which is actually kind of fun. It's kind of the reverse of hide and seek. And so you have people that it starts out like hide and seek. So someone will be it, and the other player, one person will go hide, and the other people will try to go find that person. Well, when someone finds that person, instead of pointing them out, they have to hide with that person too. So you can see that on item number 5. We call that sardines. So instead of hide and seek, it's kind of the opposite of that, right? You all have to kind of hide until the last person finds you. And then the last game is from Ghana, which is a game called Palola, which is basically someone hides a collection of sticks or stones, maybe in like a pattern, like a star. It's kind of around the area that you're playing. And then there's a timekeeper, and he keeps kind of near a finish line, and everyone goes to try to find, when the leader hides the objects, then they have everyone, they call out Palola, and everyone has to scatter to go try to find that object in the woods. And when they do find it, they have to grab the item, and they have to run to the finish line. The first one across the finish line is the winner. So these are some types of games that you can play when you want to play with nature. But if you're playing along with nature, it's really important for you to think about the rules, right? Like I said earlier, when you go to school, you've got rules. When you go over to your grandpa and grandma's house, you might have rules. If you go and you have a babysitter, that babysitter probably has rules for you. So think about the different ways, what are some rules and guidelines? Just think about this for a minute. That would make sense for how you should behave when you're learning outside or you're playing outside with your friends, or when you're in school. What are some rules that would make sense? I think we've talked about some of them. Some of them are, leave things better than the way you found them. Make sure you're putting your trash away. Make sure you're not picking flowers if you're not supposed to do that. Leave nature the way it is, much like the Cyberchase folks did. They left that log on the ground, right? Because that had become a habitat. How can we observe and respect objects without destroying them? Well, what's funny is you can do a couple things. You can draw a picture, so you could take a notebook with you and you could draw a picture of that nature. If you've got a phone with you, you might be able to take a picture of that nature, and that way you can share it with all your friends and your family when you go back. For instance, how do other plants and animals depend on a natural object to take care of themselves? So, for instance, how did those worms deal with that log? How did they depend? Did they depend on that log? I think they did, because that log was protecting them from nature. Basically, it was protecting them from the birds, and they could grow in that habitat. And then how do we kind of depend on nature just to survive? You know, our natural resources, our environment is very important for us. And if we lose those opportunities, we've talked already about urban gardens and flower gardens and the importance of pollinators. This appreciation of nature is kind of all of that together. Now, what's interesting here is in this Daniel Tiger clip, you know, Daniel and his buds are on a nature walk with the teacher Harriet. But Miss Elena is so excited that she doesn't go slowly enough to really hear the bugs and see the animals. And she learns to slow down and actually has a chance for a butterfly to actually see a butterfly. So she was really looking forward to seeing that butterfly. So I guess what this video will show you is sometimes it's just good to go slow.
See how it's moving across the branch? It's taking its time.
His whole body goes up and down and up and down. Oh, I heard something, Meow Meow. It sounded like crunching leaves. I don't hear it. Do you hear it?
Shh. Let's take our time and listen.
A squirrel! He's running! Oh, butterfly, where are you? Everyone, look! Look at it! Butterfly! Miss Elena wanted to see a butterfly. Miss Elena, come see the butterfly. Coming, Toots! Where is it? Where's the butterfly?
You missed it, Meow Meow. It flew away.
But I really wanted to see it. You saw the other horrific things, right? Like the inchworm? I didn't see an inchworm. What about the blue jay? I didn't see a blue jay either.
Did you hear the leaves crunching when the squirrel ran across?
There was a squirrel? How come I didn't see any of those things? Miss Elena, maybe you were going too fast and you missed them. Like, I went too fast making my nature bag. Sometimes it's good to go slow. Maybe. I really don't want to miss anything else. Now I'm going to walk nice and slow. Sometimes it's good to go slow. I'll go slowly with you. Thanks, Toots. It looks like that tree is wearing a sweater.
That sometimes grows on trees. That's called lichen.
I like lichen. It's a butterfly. I see a butterfly. Ooh, wow. Look at its colorful wings. Wow. I'm so happy I was going slow because I finally saw a butterfly.
Watch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood weekdays on your PBS Kids station or anytime on the PBS Kids video app.
So I think we learned a little bit about if we take our time, we can really notice nature. And I have to say, I've had an opportunity to read all the books during these 3 sessions. And my favorite book is this one that you see on our screen. It's called Our Tree Named Steve. And it's written by Alan Zweibel. I always pick the authors that are hard to say, and illustrated by David Catro. So I'm going to turn on my book camera here, and I'm going to stop my screen share. And we're going to read a book called Our Tree Named Steve. Our Tree Named Steve, once again by Alan Zweibel, illustrated by David Catro. Dear kids, a long time ago when you were little, Mom and I took you to where we wanted to build a house for us to live in. But in order to build there, men had to come and clear the land. So you see they've sold the property here. There's the dog, and they have the sold sign right here. I remember there was one tree, however, that the three of us couldn't stop staring at. Adam thought it was crying. Lindsay said it looked nervous, and Sari, who was only 2 years old, couldn't pronounce the word tree and called it Steve. I love you, Steve, she kept saying. And then Adam and Lindsay started saying it. Before too long, Mom and I got the hint and asked the builder to please save Steve. Look how big Steve is. Big tree. The day we moved in, Steve was there to greet us. He quickly worked his way into your lives as a swing holder. See, they've got a big tire swing here. And look, their dog, and they've got a bat, baseball. They were a target, third base, hiding place, and a jump rope turner. See what they're doing here? They've got the jump rope or the rope attached to Steve the tree. And whenever our dryer broke down, he held our underwear with pride. You see the dog here was also holding the underwear. Yes, right there in the center of our yard, this weird looking tree grew to become the center of our outdoor life. Through all our barbecues, campouts, dance parties, or when Adam and Lindsay started getting crushes on the Simon kids next door, Steve adjusted to every need. All the kids swinging, picking leaves, and now it must be fall, huh? Because Steve is dropping his leaves. And it wasn't always easy standing tall through snowstorms in the winter, or when Uncle Chester napped in the hammock couldn't possibly have been any fun. Not to mention the time that the sewer overflowed and Steve sucked up all the smelly water before it drowned Kirby the dog. This is Kirby over here. Then got so sick himself that the tree doctor had to give Steve a haircut that made him look like a big thumb. Through the years, Mom and I have tried to show you in a world filled with strangers the peace that comes with having things you can count on and a safe place to return after a hard day or a long trip. Which brings me to the point of this letter. Last week, a storm hit our area. And though we spared Steve's life a long time ago, this time we couldn't save him. Are we sad? Sure we are. But even in his final moments, when he could have fallen on our house, Sari's swings, Kirby's house, or Mom's garden, Steve performed his last trick and protected all of us to the very end. And friends like this are hard to find. So when you come home from Grandma's next week, Steve will not be able to greet you as he's done in the past. And you know what? I'm sorry. But please know that Steve will always be with us in our hearts, in our thoughts, and in a different tree at the other end of the yard. See you next week. Love, Dad. And that was Our Tree Named Steve, which is a wonderful book. I love that book. So let me get back to our screen, and this is your information. If you're interested in Our Tree Named Steve, certainly you can find it at your local library. And that's Our Tree Named Steve. So let's move on, and we're about halfway through our session, our exploration tonight. And so we're wrapping everything up. So folks that have had an opportunity to attend the other two sessions, or you may have watched those videos ahead of time, let's think about a couple things. First of all, you've got to think about let me do one little change here for you so I can be with you. And what have you learned so far in the Cyberchase Green It Up exploration? So let's think about this for a minute. Our session one, we talked about pollinators like bees and bats and moths and butterflies and hummingbirds and the importance of all of those pollinators, because if you think about it, what do pollinators do? They help fruits and vegetables and flowers all grow. But we also learned that pollinators are in trouble. I live out in the country, and I saw a posting on social media the other day that a lady was raising. She had, remember, we showed the beekeeper, and he had the big boxes of bees, and she was asking someone if they had sprayed some sort of pesticide because all of her bees, half of her bees had died. So those pollinators, they're very important, but bees have always been a little bit in trouble, and we're slowly figuring out what's going on with that. But we read a book called Give Bees a Chance. Then we talked about flower gardens, and we talked about growing a rainbow and all different types, how important those flower gardens are. Then we talked about container gardening, and we specifically talked about veggie container gardening, but you can plant anything really in a container garden, because remember, we watched the Cyberchase video that talked about how they had built a big garden out very much like you're all used to possibly, and then they also had to do container gardens. So we learned a lot about container gardening. Then we started talking about composting, and it all kind of fits together, because the beauty of composting is you're creating nutrients from materials that we would throw away. Remember, we learned about composting, and that's all about the green scraps that are things like, your trimmings from your vegetables and your banana peels and your leaves from trees. And then we talk about the brown side, or the brown scraps, which are things like dried leaves in the fall and pine cones and corn husks and all those good things. And we talk about when you put all those together, and let's say you add our friend the red wiggler, and we learned about Kyle the red wiggler. You add Kyle the red wiggler, or those red wiggler worms, and they help break down that material that normally would go into a landfill, and it'll actually break that down into compost. So we learned a lot about a lot of things, didn't we? So the second thing to think about is, what can you take from what you've learned and use that knowledge to maybe identify an issue in your community, in your neighborhood, maybe at your school, or if we want to keep it simple, just at your home. Maybe it's that you realize you throw away a lot of table scraps and you'd like to start composting. Maybe you would like to grow your own food rather, and so you're going to do some container vegetable gardens. Those are all possibilities when you start thinking about identifying an issue either at your house or at your school or at your neighborhood. And then what can you do to help solve an environmental problem in your neighborhood? But even the bigger question is, we learned a little bit last time about appreciating nature and rules, but how can we appreciate the environment? And as always, we've got a big idea. And so there is a lot that we do that can impact the environment. We can do, there's a lot of things we do, like pollution and litter, and I guess one and the same there, respecting our nature trails and respecting our habitats. And then you've got to think about how can I have a voice? And that's important too, as far as what do I believe? What do I want to change? And then think about, as we've gone through each of these sessions, what issues have become important to you. Maybe you've learned about container gardening. Maybe you realize how important pollinators are, right? I told you when we started, I'm not a big fan of bats, but I realize how important they are as pollinators. Maybe you realize you'd love to have a pollinator garden or a flower garden. And so those are all things that become important issues for you. And then think about what you learn and what you can share with others, and do it in a way that others understand how important it is to you, and that they're part of what you do to support what you believe in. Lots of things to think about. So let's take a closer look here at what the Cyber Squad group is doing. What I want you to think about is that the Cyber Squad is noticed that there was a lot of trash building up in the trash patches, they call them, in cyberspace. So they examined the trash to find out, geez, what was causing the problem. So what I want you to think about is, what was the problem you'll notice that the Cyber Squad saw? What was a way that they thought people in cyberspace could fix that problem? How'd they spread the word about making less trash? And then why was it important for the Cyber Squad to share what they learned with other people? Let's take a closer look.
Hopefully the citizens of cyberspace will learn to stash their trash so it doesn't end up where it doesn't belong.
I will do my best to help them understand.
It's the same on Earth, Motherboard. Our environment is being ruined by people who don't see the problem.
And we need to help convince people there to change their ways too.
It's not that difficult, you know. I did a little reorganizing of the photos our citizen scientists sent in. What do you think, Jax?
From one organizer to another, cool.
All these things like cans, bottles, boxes can be recycled. So you're not really throwing them away.
And these are things you can use again for something else. Just wash them out, clean them up, and maybe repaint them.
Bingo! Just like new.
But not everything is recyclable or reusable. Like this stuff. Use straws, plastic bags, styrofoam containers. Once you're done with them, you need to throw them away, but in a proper container.
But carefully, so it doesn't blow away or become litter.
I'm going to make sure I do all of this when I'm home.
We must all do our part. Citizens of cyberspace, we have a problem that must be addressed. We must take care to dispose of our trash responsibly. We must be sure it is properly thrown away. We must remember to recycle and reduce our waste. And whenever possible, choose a reusable alternative. When we all recycle and reuse what we can, cyberspace will become a healthier and happier place.
Way to go!
So let's think about things for a minute. I'll turn my video on here. I'm sorry. What was the problem that Cyber Squad saw? They saw lots of problems, right? They saw people dumping their trash. What was one way that they thought people in cyberspace could fix that problem? Remember, they talked about, they broke things down and they said, this is the type of trash that we can recycle. This is the type of trash we can't recycle. So they went through everything as far as what they could reuse, replace, I think was the terms that they use. How did they spread that word? Think about what they did in the Cyber Squad folks did to make less trash, about making less trash. I think they started to educate folks. They started to talk to them about what they could do with their trash. And then why is it important for the Cyber Squad to share what they've learned with other people? Well, like I said to you a bit ago, you know, when you begin to think about what's important to you, what's great is if you can get other folks that are part of your, maybe, you know, simply part of your house, maybe mom and dad or sister and brother, that we can all work together, you know, to deal with what we think is an issue, like more pollinators or whatever that might be, that you might come together. So think about those things as you step your way through. So we're going to go and do an activity, and I'm going to show you some of it, and I'm going to give you time to do all of it. Here's an activity to try. A lot of artists over time have used their voice to express how they want to change the world. So you see a lot of artists that do certain things, and they have a voice. Their voice might be the voice like I'm talking here. Their voice might be a poem that a poet would write. It might be a story or an article that a writer would put in a newspaper. That's their voice. It might be a picture that someone draws. So those are all important to you when you think about what your voice is going to be. So let me quickly move to another. We're going to move to another slide here. And I'm going to mute myself, and we're going to listen to a video real quick. What's funny is I have two dogs, one named Connor, one named Finn. And all of a sudden, during that time that we talked about having a voice, Finn decided to use his voice to express his displeasure with someone in our yard. So that's an example, I guess, of a dog using their voice. Finn decided to bark while we were getting ready to talk about using our voice. So isn't that funny how a dog has a voice? So we're going to be making a voice megaphone. So the materials for this are going to be cardboard paper. We're going to have tape or a hot glue gun, but we're going to use tape in my situation. We've got scissors, we've got a drawing pencil, and then we've got drawing materials such as markers or colored pencil or oil pastels. So let me change my camera here, and I'm going to go out of this. Let me make sure I've got the right. Yes, so what you're going to do is we're going to look at, and I'm going to show you very quickly here. So you know what, I'm just going to go right to the, and I'm going to go right to the activity. So you can see, and I only did it this way to show you that I've got a sheet of paper here that I started with, but what I did was I drew some lines on that piece of paper. So that's how this piece of paper started out. And then I drew lines on the piece of paper. So you can see I drew these horizontal lines this way, or lines up and down on the paper, and then I drew these curved lines. So I'm just going to cut this out. I didn't want to make you have to watch me draw lines. So I'm cutting along the lines here. And I'm going to make my megaphone. So I'm going to go do this and cut along this line. And then I'm going to cut out of this curved line here. And then I'm going to go on my other curved lines over here. And my other curved line over here. And I'm going to keep these scraps because I may use them in a little bit, but I'm going to take these off my area here, my work area, if I can do that, because it's easier said than done, huh? And this is my megaphone. Now, if this gives you an idea of if you know what a megaphone is, I'm going to curl this and I'm going to make a megaphone like this, right? But before I do that, I want my megaphone to be my voice. So what I want to do is I want to put my voice on there. So I'm really passionate about pollinators. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to draw my voice on here. So I'm going to use the line from the book that we read, and I'm going to say, give bees and you can hear that Finn has his voice too. And I'm going to decorate that because this is going to be my megaphone. So I'm going to I might make some bees on here. And I'm going to do some different colored bees here. I might do a little, almost like a fun little bee there. And I'm going to put some yellow on them there. So, and I'm just going to make my give bees a chance. Meanwhile, I'm going to take some of my scrap here and I'm going to make a handle for my megaphone. So I'm just going to cut this piece right here. And I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to cut this here. So this is our activity. I'm going to try to do this a little bit quicker than what I'm doing it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold up this megaphone here that says give bees a chance. And I'm going to sneak out a frame here. And I'm going to get my stapler, right? And I'm going to staple it here. And I'm going to staple it over here. Maybe, as I say, hopefully. And you can see now I have my give bees a chance megaphone. I'm going to take my handle and I'm just going to bend this here. I'm going to bend this here. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. And that's my handle for the megaphone. I might add another staple in there, right? Kind of in the middle, maybe. There we go. And then I'm just going to add my handle in there. So I'm going to quickly tape my handle on there. And this is an activity you can do, but it's to give you a voice. You have to think about what is my voice going to be? What do I want to work at in my community? And then I can very easily put this handle on, right? And then I now have a megaphone. And my megaphone says, give bees a chance. So I can say my give bees a chance message. So let's go back. I'm going to leave this up for you right here. And let's go back to our screen share. And once again, you're looking at, you're going to choose a big, large piece of, and I'll stay up here on the screen. I took that big piece of construction paper. I made those lines and I cut it. And I cut out the fan shape. I lightly marked where you'd like your message. And I then colored my message. I didn't color as much as I wanted to. Then I rolled that into a cone shape. I took and folded the edges and I made a handle. And then I speak the truth. Like in my case, I'm saying, give bees a chance, give bees a chance. So now you take an opportunity to take what we've done, take about 3 minutes, and let's work on making your own megaphone. Remember now, you want to take that big piece of paper, you want to make those lines on it, and then you want to cut those out and you're going to make that megaphone. So you're also going to want to, before you curl that up and staple it together, you're going to want to make sure that you put your message on there. Your message might be, like mine was, give bees a chance. Your message might be, hey, we need more flower gardens. Your message might be, save the pollinators. Your message might be, let's compost, let's reuse, let's recycle, let's compost. So you've got a lot of different messages that you might want to give, and you might want to put that on your megaphone. You've got about a minute left, so as you're wrapping up your project there, you might want to make sure that you're getting your message on your megaphone, and pretty soon here you'll probably want to curl that up, and you'll want to staple that together, and you'll want to put your handle on that. And if you're in a group of people, make sure you're using your megaphone to let people know what your message is, what's your voice. Like I said in mine, give bees a chance, but yours might be something different. You've got about another 45 seconds, so why don't we start wrapping up that? And let's move on. We're going to look at very quickly another video that talks about protecting our environment. There were 17 students from Hawaii that realized that they needed to protect their environment. So let's watch this video as they really address the need in regards to plastic on their beaches.
This is floating out there, and all these animals are being hurt by it. Today, there's so much plastic that you cannot go to a beach without seeing trash.
This Hawaii is my Hawaii. The meaning of Malama Honua really is, Malama means to care for something, to cherish something. Honua, if you translate it from our language, means our earth. In a deeper sense, Malama Honua is about caring for that piece of earth where you come from, wherever that place is that you call home.
It breaks my heart that our islands here are just like a filter for all this plastic pollution that's in the ocean.
Even though a lot of it's winding up in Hawaii because of the currents, affects the whole world that's throwing away plastic.
A water bottle, plastic packages, netting,
Plastic utensils.
part of a car.
We also found black styrofoam.
People in Hawaii throw away over 50,000 pounds of polystyrene, of styrofoam, every single day.
Hawaii as a state is the highest per capita user of styrofoam.
It's next to impossible to recycle styrofoam. It's just economically infeasible.
The reason why it's so detrimental is because it finds its way up the ocean food chain.
Fish eat styrofoam thinking it's other food, and they get not only the styrofoam from their bodies, but chemicals that have been absorbed onto it. We eat the fish that have eaten styrofoam.
If a turtle swallows plastic, it can get caught in the intestines, it can block food, it can cause the turtle to starve to death.
Albatrosses go out to sea to get food for their chicks. They come back and give the plastic to their chicks, and the chicks die from having all the plastic in their stomachs instead of real food. This all comes from albatross regurgitating it up. This is styrofoam.
This is fishing line.
I didn't know they'd think fishing line was food.
So what we choose to do is really going to determine what our future is going to be like. Whether you get to see healthy turtles, whether you get to see a healthy ocean.
We can do something about this. This soon will be our world, and we're going to have to protect it.
The main stuff that styrofoam is actually used in is takeout boxes. There's no reason to have styrofoam.
All of this talk about, oh, it's not plate lunch if you don't have it in styrofoam. That is nonsense. Plate lunch is if it's cheap, if it tastes good, and if you can take it away, fine.
It all comes back to us.
It's really important to make new decisions and change our daily behavior.
We are linked together. That whether you're from Hawaii, whether you're from Miami, Florida, we're all connected on this place that we all call home. And it's up to each one of us, wherever we are, to care for that place. It's our responsibility to care for our home.
So that's a great example of a group of students, just like you are, that realized that there was a need to, there was a problem, and the environmental problem was they had too much plastic on their beaches. So they took it upon themselves to try to correct that. And then they gave their voice, right? They shared their voice with many people, and those many people helped them. Our next video, real quick, as we wrap up our session here. World Environmental Day was in June, so you're still thinking about what's your environmental issue that affect your neighborhood, your school, or maybe just your home. So when you begin to take a closer look at what we can do for our Earth, think about all those different things. We talked about planting more flowers. What do you want to do? Something like plant more trees? Do you want to do an urban garden? Do you want to support pollinators and create a pollinator garden? Do you want to eat healthier by growing your own food? Do you want to make sure people know about companies that produce products that are bad for the environment? Let's take a closer look.
In the universe are billions of galaxies.
In our galaxy are billions of planets, but there is only one Earth.
For most of our history, humans lived in harmony with nature.
But we have shattered that balance,
exploiting our planet for products and wealth, creating a climate catastrophe, driving species to extinction,
and polluting our land, seas, and air.
The wave of life is fraying. If it fails, we as a species will fail too.
The science is clear, and time is running out.
We must go from harming our planet to healing it.
We must protect what we have and bring back what we lost to advance to a more sustainable future where everyone can thrive.
Humanity has come together before to prevent environmental catastrophes.
We have helped repair the ozone layer. We've restored millions of hectares of land and marine ecosystems, protecting thousands of species. And we've banned dangerous pollutants,
saving countless lives.
Let those victories be the torches that ignite more action and illuminate the path to a world in which we are once again at peace with nature.
In the universe are billions of galaxies. In our galaxy are billions of planets. But there is only one Earth.
Solo un planeta Tierra.
只有一个地球。
Keval एउटै पृथ्वी.
Bara en jord.
Dunia ni moja tu.
So as we wrap things up with our Cyberchase Green It Up series, we wrap it up with a big finale. So you need to think about what you've learned about pollinators, about flower gardens, about container gardens, and based on what you learned, what's an environmental issue that exists? Then decide on one or a few key issues. Maybe work with your friends, work with your family, and you want to share with as many people as possible. Then get your voice out there. Work to create materials like posters that talk about pollution, posters that talk about saving the pollinators, and then make sure people understand why that issue matters to you and why that's really important. Of anything that the Cyberchase Green It Up project did was we wanted you to be aware of all of these different things that you can do to help the environment. And with that said, I thank you so much for attending our Cyberchase Green It Up session tonight. Hopefully you had an opportunity to attend either sessions in person or virtually, or maybe you're watching these as pre-taped. I had forgotten that the QR code that you see in your upper left corner, if you scan that with your phone, that will take you to our webpage, our project webpage. It'll have these resources. It should have videotape or tape lessons from prior Cyberchase Green It Up projects, as well as a link to the Cyberchase national site that has even more resources for you to look over. So once again, I thank you so much for taking your time, being part of the Cyberchase Green It Up program. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to education@pbswesternreserve.org. And keep checking our webpage, especially the education page, because we've got a wealth of resources that are available, and we've got some really exciting projects coming up. Thank you all and have a great night.